Every West Indies cricket supporter that I know celebrated South Africa beating Australia in the World Test Championship yesterday. Under one person, Bruce, who even when West Indies is playing Australia, he support Australia. I sympathize with his hurt because he's hurt badly. But everyone that I met yesterday, they were happy that Australia lost. But, however, they are saying that West Indies will now feel the full front and force of Australia revenge as they seek to put the record straight. In a little and a few weeks, we welcome them to our shores. Those games are I am hoping that they'll be excited and that West Indies will win. However, it seems very unlikely. Hello, everyone, and a happy Father's Day to all of those who have and are playing the role of fathers. Thank you for tuning in to the #1 cricket channel in the Caribbean. I appreciate your company and welcome to the Takedown. This morning, we have with us Basil Butcher Jr., the son of the former legendary West Indies batsman Basil Butcher Sr. and former coach of the United States women's senior team. And we have with us also our longtime analyst, Andre Douglas out of New York. Welcome, gentlemen. Good morning and a happy Father's Day to you.
Good morning, Andre. Good morning, Carlton. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers around the world. And good morning to your viewers.
Yeah, morning, Carlton. Morning, Basil. Happy Father's Day to all fathers and who play the role of a father.
Correct.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's start with Basil to get the ball rolling as I hit the first question out there. Rumors are emerging that our head coach is losing the dressing room.
Interesting.
When this happens, there are usually three reasons. One of three reasons, or it could be a combination of reasons. They are no longer confident. So one, the players are no longer confident that the tactics being employed by the coach can take them to the next level, can improve their game and let them start winning. Two, if this happens, there are usually interpersonal challenges like communication and the way things are expressed and so on, behavior and so on. And three, and most importantly, I think, underperforming players will cite the coach as being not good enough to cover up their below par performances. Those are my views on when it is said that the coach is losing the dressing room. Those are rumors that are emerging, Basil. One, I do not know if you hear any of these rumors through the grapevine, and give me your reason, your opinion, your views. Being it that these rumors start to emerge, why do you think that such rumors would emerge?
I've heard some rumblings, but I haven't taken them seriously, right? I think one of the things that you might say, some of these things start to emerge. The team has been losing. If my memory serves me correct, in T20 games they've lost the last 10 out of 12 matches. So when a team starts to lose, you may hear rumblings as to who is accountable for losing. In the case of this team, the T20 coach changed captains, citing obviously, and you heard Rodman Powell saying there was disagreements in the approach. You know, the coach has talked about data driven, and Powell was saying there has to be a balance between instinctual cricket and so on and so forth. Well, Powell has been removed as thing, and they brought in a new captain, and the results have remained the same. So the one individual that everything is going to point to is the coach. Now you have cited some reasons there which are interesting. The number one reason that you cited, the first one, is the one that I think often is where coaches in all sports can lose the locker room, is when the players start to see, wait a minute, this approach, these tactics, how we going about things, it ain't working, and they start tuning out the coach. And usually when that happens, there's only one thing you could do: you got to remove the coach.
Thank you very much, Basil. Andre, what are your views on such rumors? You're in New York. Are you hearing any such rumors? And even if you don't hear, what you think would have caused such rumors to be emerging?
Yes. Well, I'm hearing, I'm hearing quite a bit of bickering and talking around, not in terms of, in general, my general talk with people here, but actually online and with persons in the Caribbean. Ever since, the former Captain Powell, made those remarks, it has actually caught the attention of quite a number of persons, in the cricketing circle, quite a number of cricketing fans who believe that Darren Sammy has indeed lost the dressing room somewhat, and the players, especially the senior players, are not really in tune or in line with his particular belief or his sort of standard, so to speak. So I think that there have been quite a number of talks in the cricketing circles, not only mostly in the Caribbean, from what I've actually picked up.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, I want to look at the third reason that I put forward there a little more and in a little details, in which I stated that we have seen in the past where underperforming players, and this is not limited to West Indies cricket. It's for sports all over the world. Underperforming players cite their underperformance on the coach because the players are now coming under pressure, and so they are pushing back at the coach. For a number of years, we have talked about players' power in West Indies cricket. I, for one, have cited this as one of the issues, one of the challenges that we face in West Indies cricket, where we are not able to move the game forward because players seem to have so much power. They can turn up to play when they want to play. They do not carry out the drills that they are given to do, and they turn up back at camps and they turn up back for West Indies tours and matches without completing their task. And I'm asking because this is coming to me. Is it, gentlemen, that Darren Sammy is now saying to the players, gentlemen, the train is in the station far too long. Idiots like Mr. Brown are on his platform saying that the train is reversing. And I need to get this train moving now. And so there's a clash in the direction where the coach wants to take the cricket and what the players are prepared to do. So they now are now enforcing that player power to say, we are not going along that direction with the coach and we are going to get rid of him. These are conspiracies to the highest order, some would say, but they are my thought process. React to those thought process, Basil, if you can.
I mean, there's some interesting points you raise, but I'm not going to take them serious unless I get evidence, more evidence as we watch this team play. Um, it'll be interesting to see when we go up against Australia. Suppose if Australia gives us a 3-0 hiding. Not to say, and we didn't compete in the manner, at least compete. You know, you have to start to ask, is this guy the right person for the job? Or is it where our players are just not good enough? Is it a combination of both? That's when you will start to ask those questions. But I think players, usually the players that cite the coaches for their underperformance often, more times than not, are players that don't look at themselves and don't and not taking accountability to themselves for their craft. Because at the end of the day, it is your personal responsibility. Um, you know, when a position coach goes over the planning, you know, a large part of the planning is based on your skill set and your abilities, and you have to be able to say, coach, this is what I could do best, and so on and so forth. You can't have me doing this which I don't do well. So you then go out there, and if you don't execute, you can't blame the coach.
Thank you very much. Um, Andre, and I want to, Basil say something just then. That's why I stumbled a bit. But before, give me your views, Andre, on the comments that I made earlier.
I mean, the player power versus that of the coach or management, so to speak, has been around for quite some time. There's always been some, you know, tussle or tug of war between players and the amount of power that players have from as way back as we can think, you know. And it is probably now more evident now than ever that with the advent of T20 cricket and the influx of amount of T20 cricket being played, you know, and the availability of our players, it is so more evident now. But what is so striking is that Sammy, who's now the coach, was actually, he was probably, I wouldn't say the pioneer, but he was very much a part of that situation where there was a struggle between players versus management, so to speak. He himself had, you know, had his own role between the management when he was a player. So it's quite interesting now that he's a coach, and he's now, in return, he's now hoping for some form of respect and the full support of his players. So it's a very, very important sort of tussle that we have between the powers of the player and that of the coach. So I think Sammy is in a very, very precarious position right now as a former player himself and as one who advocated for the betterment in terms of situation with his as players. So it's very interesting to see where things will go from here with Darren Sammy as a coach and the personality that he has and what he expects from his players.
Thank you very much. So, Basil, let me just come back because I need some clarity on that last statement. You said that if the player doesn't execute, then you cannot blame the coach. But isn't it that it was the coach's responsibility not to select that player because the player already tell the coach that, coach, I can't do it?
No. All players got strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
One of the most fundamental thing as a coach, you want to put your player in a position to succeed. So you want to put them in the where they could exploit their strengths, not their weaknesses. So therefore, say for example, I'll give you a concrete example. We're gonna be playing against a team that features certain type of spinners and so on and so forth. You as a batter, you are not a good sweeper. So we got to come up with options with you. How would you combat these spinners with the strengths you have in your toolbox? I can't ask you to go there and sweep when sweeping is not the top of your is not a strength of yours. That's what I'm talking about. So the player now has to go out and execute their strengths. If they don't execute it, you can't blame the coach. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but this role playing, and I mentioned it earlier sometime last week, that role playing, when that argument starts to be positioned, is because it's a weak team we have, why we are talking about role playing, gentlemen?
Yeah, this is a very pet peeve for me too. I had a back and forth with a certain person on this same point, and I said my issue is that when y'all are choosing, how you have come to how did y'all come to the conclusion that player X is suited for X role? Is player X skill set and have shown a degree of performance to be able to facilitate that role, right? And that's where I get the problem. That's where I got the question with Sammy, them whole thing about roles and
Thank you
roles
very
and
much.
roles.
That, now, sorry, Basil, it was Mrs. Brown. I was saying thank you very much to
Oh,
because she brought a cup of hot
oh,
beverage for me.
okay, sorry. Yeah, because Carlton, for example, we saw in the press release, we have identified a special role for Brandon King. Well, why didn't you put that in the press release as to what is this special rule, right? That so those of us, the consumers of West Indies cricket, could say, wait a minute. Let's say, for example, this role is Brandon King is going to bat at 3, right? We then can have a discussion, intelligent discussion, rather than speculating what the role is, as to Brandon King's ability to facilitate this role that you guys have chosen him to, right? And that is where I have the issue, because I was told that this guy Justin Graves, reason why he bats at 6 in the ODI team is because he's a guy they look to come on the back end. And you know, when we hear the word back end, is a guy that gonna come and really put bat to ball. But if you look throughout Justin Graves' career, that's never been a feature of his game. Are you trying to get Justin Graves to do something that has never really been a strength of his game? That's a question one would want to raise.
Uh, Andre, when a coach, as I asked Basil, when a coach or a administration started talking about role playing, do you agree that it's a sign of a weak team?
I don't necessarily agree that's a sign of a weak team, because you need, I mean, you need persons to play their particular role in a team. So I wouldn't think that is a case of a sign of a weak team. I mean, I expect as a coach, one who knows what he's doing, you should have this sort of plan in place. And I think that each team, whether it be strong or weak in any case, I think you need persons who have particular roles to play.
Thank you very much. Basil, do you want to react to that? Or you're good?
No. I think what Andre is saying is fundamental. The question that is what one has to ask: are these players they're selecting for those roles have the requisite skill set to fulfill those roles? That's the question we have to raise. It's really cool to talk about the roles and all of that, and then on the other hand, they also say we look at what the best teams in the world are doing. Now, I got a little issue with that, to be looking at what the best teams doing. Yes, that can be part, but that should never be the major key, because it is a skill set of your players that you need to be upskilling, and look at the skill set of your players, that when you match up at every team that you match up with, how can I utilize the skill set of my players to beat said team, rather than looking at, say, what Australia doing, what India is doing, or England, or what have you. You see what I'm saying? Because those players they have is not the players I have. I have to deal with how my players, I can put them in the best position against each and every team. And that comes to also, particularly in the white ball game, that roles should not be concrete, because it's not like a test match where, a guy is.
But Basil, I put it to you though
Mhm,
that, and I'm going to put it because role playing, and I'm going back to the era of your father when he was playing for West Indies.
mhm,
From 3 to 6,
mhm.
you could put those 4 names in a hat and mix them up and take
Correct.
out one and say you batted 3.
Correct.
Take out the other one and say you batted 4, because that was a strong team. So,
Yeah, but
and I'm putting forward the point that
mhm.
all this role playing is really because the team is weak. You could ask Vivian Richards to bat at any number in the order. You could
Yeah,
ask Richie Richards to bat at any number in the order.
your point is correct, right? Because I'll tell you this. My father said this to me one time because this same question, guys used to have arguments, in the park arguing, oh, John Jones bat 3, John Jones bat 4, John Jones bat 5 and 6. And I remember I broached the thing to him. And he says, Skipper, middle order, you gotta be able to bat anywhere in the middle order, right? And it's depending where you bat in middle order, you could reach different situations. The new ball can be like, because guys would say things like this, oh, a number 3 guy could be facing the new ball right away because the opener get a first ball. True. But you could be coming at number 4 and be facing the new ball too if it's 2 down, right? And so on. Or even if you're batting at 5 or 6, you now coming into bat, the guy set a nice platform or whatever, but they just taking the second new ball. So you coming into bat at 5 or 6, and you're going to be facing the new ball up front. So therefore, your point is well taken, Carlton, but also on top of that, you want the players to have the skill sets. And that's what they had in our halcyon days.
And that is my point, Basil.
Yes,
that
yes,
it's not role playing is our problem.
It's a skill set.
It's not our challenge. Role playing is not our challenge, because I don't want to say problem. Problem is something bigger.
I agree with you there. I agree with you.
It's
and
really
that is we be saying the same thing maybe differently. And that is the question I've raised. Why are y'all so focused on this role playing rather than getting these guys upscale? Look, I mean, a simple thing. All the fancy scoop shots you see that are successful in our cricket, how many of our guys could play those shots? No, I only see Shea Hope trying them. But when you go down and you watch women teams, the best women teams in the world, all their players know to play the shot.
Yep, and it goes back to upskills and for too long though, Basil, and I really want to move on to the next question that I have, but for too long, we have heard in West Indies cricket that after a player reaches a certain age, you can't improve him. And we are seeing players from other country proving this theory completely wrong. Josh Butler is a key example of that. David Warner. We have seen these players who, when we saw them 10 years ago, the number of shots they are playing now, they were not playing it then. Joe Root is another example. We saw him inventing the reverse scoop. Right? So it's false. It is wrong that players cannot improve after a certain age. Their game have to evolve.
Yeah.
What they really need to do is to upskill. And you are saying that these countries, even the female teams, you see them playing different.
All the various sweeps. All the sweeps.
Yes. And the reason why we are not playing it is not that we don't have it in our mind to play it.
No.
But these girls, these gentlemen, they practice those strokes 5,000 times even before they come into a match.
Yes.
When the West Indies players practice it for 20, 30 times, they think they get it right and they don't need to practice it anymore. And that's the big difference.
That's right. I agree with you 100% of what you're saying there. We have to be able to get our players, or players have to have this mindset. I'm looking to improve all the time. They have to realize you have never arrived. And part of the process of being a league player and staying up there for years is having your mindset every day. I'm looking to improve, because remember, guys are always adjusting to you. So you have to always be ahead of the game, adding something to your game to be able to counteract what they're bringing at you. Otherwise, you're going to be like our guys. How many times, for example, Carlton and Andre, do you ever hear a West Indian player saying, I want to be the best in the world? How many times do we hear that?
Andre, you want to come in here, please?
No, what I would probably say to that is that what I think for the most part that all players, I think that they lack the sort of intensity and the focus. If oftentimes you hear about our players are training, and I see a number of commentators sometimes say that our players they're not really in, they don't get real intensive, in terms of the training. They're very lackadaisical in the way they approach things. And I think that that actually permeates right throughout the team, and is a culture, right? We lack intensity, and all players don't take responsibility for their own action. They don't take responsibility for their own development. So I think that a personal responsibility is lacking in West Indies cricket right throughout.
All right, gentlemen, one of the reasons when Sammy was appointed coach, one of the arguments put forward when he was appointed coach is that he will be able to get our T20 stars to play red ball cricket. That was banded as about that he has that in him. He has that capacity to get them.
That cachet.
That, yes. We have not seen that happen. What we have seen is that player resign. What we have seen is that West Indies have a T20 tournament against Bangladesh and players leave to play in the Big Bash League in Australia. This has not happened. Now, with this latest rumor that just started to surface, and one of the things that I put forward is that this could be player power. This could be player power where players do not want to increase to that intense level that Sammy want them to improve to. Players who are rebelling against the approach of Sammy because his approach will take the team to the next level. But these players who have been in their slumber all along, who probably, just for argument's sake, they probably used to run 1 kilometer a day, but Darren Sammy wants them to run 1.5 kilometer a day, just for argument's sake, to put a measurement there. And they have come together now and said, we have to get rid of this coach. And I just use that as an example of player power. If this is the case, gentlemen, we must back the coach, because the coach cannot be allowed to lose if he's putting in measures to take the team forward and the players don't want to comply. We have to back the coach. The coach can't lose, and we are here to support the coach if that's what is going on. So if that's what's going on, we want to hear from the coach so that we back him to the tilt. Let's take that one first this time, Andre.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of the coach should get, get his own way in terms of how he wants to do things. And if the players are not up to par in terms of, in line with what the coach wants, they should go. And I think that, I think our players for far too long, they have really undermined the coach somewhat. They don't take responsibility. As I said earlier, they don't take responsibility for their own actions. And if that's the case, I think that a player who doesn't take responsibility should not be a part of the team. And I get the feeling, and I get the feeling that some players are not really up to it in terms of being in line with what the coach actually wants. And that is the reason why we're having some issues where that is concerned.
Thank you very much, Andre. Basil?
I must say, though, Sammy has gotten to you would say 3 white ball guys to come back to the red ball test team. Namely the new captain, Roston Chase, who hadn't played in 2 years, Shea Hope, who hadn't played in 4 years, and Mr. Brandon King, who has been saying he wants to play test cricket. Now he's in the test team. So Sammy will say, well, I have gotten 3 guys to come, although one has retired in Mr. Puran, right? And he hasn't gotten Hetmeyer to commit to test cricket. Or they haven't picked Hetmeyer. But I think if what you're proposing there, Carlton, if that is indeed the situation, of course you got to back the coach.
Thank you very much, Basil. Now, one of the challenges that we face as a West Indies cricket organization is getting the players to play for us, as we discussed there. We see where the Puran and the Hetmeyer and the Rutherford, because as you say, Basil, I think that Hope always want to play test cricket. Chase would grab at the opportunity. Chase was dropped,
Yeah.
But I don't think it is really Sammy bringing back Chase. Anybody, if
Well,
they tell, give,
yeah, that's
give
a fair point.
the
That's a
offer.
fair point.
And Brandon King really, he has no T20 contract anywhere over the world. So if you give him the offer, he will take it. I think most of the players who purses are looking at, if he had gotten Pooran to play Test cricket, Hetmeyer and Rutherford,
Yes.
then I think that is where he would have won the argument.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it now? The question is asking, why is it that we cannot get our better players to represent the West Indies on every occasion? And what need to be done for us to be able to get our better players to be always playing for the West Indies? And let me put better players in quotation mark, because not because a car can do a drag race, it means that it can run in an F1 race. So I put better in quotation mark. What needs to be done for our players to be always want to represent the West Indies? Take it first, Andre, and then I go to Basil.
That's quite an interesting question right there, and this is this is something that I've talked about for quite some time. What is it that we can do? I mean, to be honest with you, I think, for one, I don't think we have the sort of capital in terms of money to compete with the various T20 leagues in the world in terms of attracting our better players, so to speak. Once our better players, in quotation, see that they can actually make more money playing T20 cricket and probably doing less work, than to represent West Indies in Test cricket, that's always going to be an issue, and I think it's being manifested right now, where it's very little in terms of, what the cricket West Indies can do in terms of attracting better players. The only thing I'd probably say would be to try to inculcate in the younger players who are coming up, because I think that for this present generation, it's actually gone through the gate in terms of trying to attract them in playing, representing West Indies as much as we want them to do. So I guess we'd have to try to change some things to attract the youngsters who are coming up, to see how we can improve in that regard. But for this present generation, I think there's very little we can do.
Thank you very much, Basil.
To add to what Andre is saying, I agree. The economic landscape of world cricket, West Indies board cannot compete. So therefore, my view is, to add to what Andre said, is that we have to focus on producing better cricketers. So when these guys go off, we got players in the wings that can come and represent the West Indies. And that has to be the focus, because until this landscape is changed, that smaller population with boards with smaller population like ours will have the resources, that would be the focus for me.
Gentlemen, I have a more, in my opinion, when I think a more complex approach. Our nurses, our teachers, a lot of our professionals in Jamaica and the Caribbean. Up to recently, a big fish we saw where the finance minister of Jamaica was called up by the IMF to be a managing director. These professionals outside of cricket are also having lucrative offers outside of the region. And so it is not unique only to our cricketers to be offered big money outside of the region. Recently, I think his name is Gladstone Brown, the Prime Minister of Antigua. He made the proposal to say, any one of you who want to be a nurse can be a nurse. We will fund you. We will pay the money for your tuition, all your training. We'll even pay you while you are being trained. However, after you finish training, you have to stay with us for 8 years. You cannot leave. Tell me, gentlemen, which cricketer, and I'm not talking about those who have gone through the gate already, which young cricketer for example, those at the West Indies Academy can make it to the international stage, commanding big money from Cricket West Indies. No, sorry. Commanding big money from these franchise teams without using Cricket West Indies platform. Which one of them can do that? And isn't that platform that Cricket West Indies have can be used as a leverage to these youngsters and said, if you want to access our platform, you have to be prepared to be bonded to us for the next 8 years. If you don't want to do that, then go and make it on your own. In saying that, however, it is not a draconian measure that I will put in place. I would say the window for the IPL is clear. The window for the CPL is clear. You can play those two tournaments.
As well as the PSL.
Depending on the negotiation, whether it's one other tournament apart from those two, or two other tournaments. And also you said, if West Indies is not playing, and if we don't call you, and there's another tournament, you can go and play it. But apart from the IPL and the CPL and one other tournament, once we call you, you have to come. If you are not prepared to do that for the next 8 years, you are not going to access international cricket through our platform. If you want to take another course and do it, go ahead. We bless you. Your reaction, Basil?
Yeah, I think you raised some fair points. Actually, I was told by a former high-up administrator at CWI, a paper was done on the investment, the actual investment of a player in West Indies cricket from under 15 all the way to become an international player. And it was upwards over $1 million US, right? So you have the actual numbers in terms of the investment in each player that goes from under 15 to the international level. So you have some serious grounds to stand on in terms of that, because you can't be investing in developing these players, and then they could just when they get to the top, they could then decide, no, I want to play for West Indies no more. No, there have to be a balance.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I actually insinuated that earlier that I think that things have to change from the earlier level for those current players. I think that things have the horse has bolted, so to speak. So it has to start from, say, the under 15 level, the under 15 level, really, if we want to change the way things are done, because it's a lot of investment, and I didn't know it was actually so much, until Baz actually made mention of it just now. So I think that this is something that West Indies will have to look to if we ought to see some return on the investment, and which is very important, because we cannot really afford to be investing, thousands, millions of dollars in these players, and the return is minuscule when they make it at the international level.
So therefore, gentlemen, there's a clear pathway where West Indies can stem this. In academia, they said brain drain. So maybe the word we can use it is skill drain, talent drain. There's a clear pathway where there's a clear direction that West Indies can take. So all this argument that we are hearing, is recently we heard it from the coach, that more players are going to resign, and the economic situation in the West Indies doesn't give them that authority. That's not really thinking through the issues, and that is a crop out, isn't it so, Basil?
Yeah, I think we, because this situation, I mean, it's been around the last 10 years or more than 10 years since IPL started. This became an issue. As you remember, Gales, Pollards, and all of those guys, right? And unfortunately, I don't think the Cricket West Indies really thought out this thing they had come up with some things like, for example, I remember when Cameron was the president, they talked about the ICC, that all leagues, wherever West Indies players go and play, they got, or any cricketer, the board should receive a certain percentage of that player's contract. So they're getting money back for, we produce these players and you benefiting. You gotta pay up, you gotta pay, right? I don't know how far that went, because I know an IPL is the only one that I know off the top of my head that does pay something to the board, right? And that money is filtered down to the territorial board, and then supposed to the club. So the club that person comes from gets something for their player getting to that level, right? So I think this thing has to be taught of, because the issue you talk about, the brain drain, where, like, for example, the tongue I grew up where you talked about Gaston Brown in Antigua, guys used to get scholarships from the bauxite company in the bauxite tongue I grew up. And one of the requisites was, after you graduate with your degree, you had to serve a minimum of 5 years. I mean, obviously they had guys and gals that, what we call it, abscond, never came back, right? But because they never came back, they couldn't come back to Guyana, period, because you know what will happen.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Basil. And now, before we comes to the comment, because they are piling up, and you know that they soon get miserable with us, we just want to look at one other thing before we come to those comments. I don't know how many of you have seen the video where I tried to list the reasons why Nicholas Pooran resigned, and I cited as one of the reasons was Powell being removed as captain, and the fact that Sammy is losing the dressing room, and one thing that I never remember to recall is that also Bravo, when he made all of those runs in the regional 4-day tournament, for someone who is averaging the 30s, and for West Indies to pick someone who's averaging in the 20s ahead of him, I never recall that. But the person I want to move on to, and these are maybe some of the reasons why the rumors are surfacing that Sammy is losing the dressing room, maybe. But the one that I want to move on to, though, Basil, is Kemar Roach not being selected. How do you feel about that? How do you react to Kemar Roach not being selected? What have you been hearing?
Look, I agree with him not being selected. I think it's time for us to move on from Kemar Roach. However, as I said to my Bajan friends, I feel that the first test is at Kensington Oval. I think the West Indies should honor Kemar Roach at some point during that test match. Thank him for his services, etc., to West Indies cricket as a player and so on. You know, there was a scathing article in the Barbados Nation that was castigating West Indies selector for not picking Kemar Roach. But I agree with Mr. Sammy not picking Kemar Roach.
Okay. Whether I agree with Sammy not picking Kemar Roach or not, because I can live with both decisions. The fact that he was not selected, I can live with that.
Oh yeah, both of them.
If he was selected, I could live with that. But you say something, Basil, and I'm very glad you put it that way, that West Indies should do something to honor Kemar Roach during the test match. Because for a moment there, I thought you were going to say that they should let him play the final test match to honor him. And I've always put forward the position, and I will maintain this. The West Indies senior team is a winning machine, and you should not, or well, let's say it should be a winning machine, and it is not a training ground, and players should not be picked on sentimental reasons, because there are many other ways to honor Kemar Roach apart from giving him a final test match for sentimental reasons. So I'm very glad that you put it that way. Andre, let's hear your thoughts on the non-selection of Kemar Roach.
I mean, I too agree with Basil. I have absolutely no issues with Kemar Roach not being selected. I mean, Kemar Roach has been, actually, he has fallen off a great deal over the past a couple of years. So with him not selected and other persons are outperforming him. So I can see a person, Kemar Roach is what, around 36 thereabouts, and you have other persons, much younger persons, are outperforming him. I have absolutely no issue at all with Kemar Roach not being selected. But I too agree that he can be honored at Barbados cricket at Kensington Oval, and West Indies cricket should actually do this. Far too many players have left with a rather a sort of sour grip in their mouth in terms of where this is concerned. And I think that West Indies Cricket Board should actually honor Kemar Roach at his home ground at Kensington Oval.
It's interesting that Andre said that far too many players have left with a sour grape in their mouth.
Yeah.
And I differ from you on that, gentleman, because I think if you work and one side don't owe you any money, I really don't care how you feel when you stop working. It's as simple as that. If I pay you, I don't really care how you feel.
Carlton, I think there's a little bit difference here representing a region and the people, and you have represented them well and brought joy to their hearts and made them feel proud. I mean, look, the great Sir Garfield Sobers, he get put out to pasture. They never honored the man. I mean, we could go down the line, Sir Isaac Vivian, Alexander Richards.
Yes, Basil, I know you can. I know you can. I know you can. I know you can go down.
Quite quickly. I mean, those guys made West Indian people so proud, and we puff up with chest. Those of us live abroad, like particularly in England, could puff up the chest and walk into work in the morning when we win. If we lose, is licks like tail for us. So, I mean, all we could have done is simply give these guys their kudos, the roses. It won't to kill we for just honor them.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, it won't to kill. I mean, I don't agree. I agree with you.
No, Basil. Let me say this, Basil, because it appears that I'm being misinterpreted.
Okay.
I do not have an issue honoring the players.
Okay, all right.
What I am saying is that it shouldn't be a sentimental test match.
No, I agree.
And if you're going to feel the way because you don't get that sentimental test match, no. I care less.
No,
so I am not saying that they should not be honored.
Okay.
And I agree with the suggestion to find a way to honor Kemar Roach during the first test match at Kensington Oval.
I agree with you 100%. And you know, it's where this whole sentimental thing these West Indian cricket fans start getting. You remember India organized at 2 test matches against West Indies, so Tendulkar could get the 200 test matches. When Tendulkar was clearly, but that was based on sentiment and they want to honor their guy. And we jump on that thinking, oh, that's what we should do for. No. That's a one-off thing. Nowhere else in the world do they do such things, right? India chose to do that for Tendulkar, good. But other places in the world honor their players.
Yes, and let me just say something in this regard. Yeah, and I've heard Roach on quite a number of occasions saying that he actually wants to he has a goal to take 300 test wickets. Yes. And Roach must realize that this is a professional cricket, and you cannot, in your selfish reason, think that, oh, I want to play so I can take 300 test wickets. So he should have known that. Listen, I've passed my best. He should have known that we have only played, X amount of games. So you know that if I've not reached my goal, that is it. So be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So good morning, everyone in the live chat. I think there are a number of other things that we could discuss, but we have been going almost an hour now, and so we must give the persons in the live chat an opportunity to hear what they have to say. Good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day to all of you who have been father and are playing the role of fathers. Happy Father's Day. Yesterday, I must big up my wife. She took me yesterday to a farm, a 70 acre property. It was a wonderful occasion. There were mangoes, there were pineapples, there were strawberries, there were.
Hello. Carter, stop. I don't want motor water. You talk about them local fruits that we in the States say we gotta pay a premium to eat them fruits. You could just take them.
That was a wonderful occasion. I play some cricket and I'm going to release some of those images. I play a savage pull shot off for a young man, yes, man. I mean, savage. Yeah, I said I'm going to release all of those images.
All right.
But happy Father's Day to everyone that is here who have been a father and are playing the role of a father. So Sheldon, good morning to you. Lou Prudent, Ricardo Garden. Thank you for your greetings. Sheldon is saying, Basil, and I don't know if you can put this into context, because you can imagine that Sheldon is hurt that Joshua Da Silva is not in the team, being a Trinidadian. And I understand that, because I think that Joshua Da Silva should be in the squad. But Sheldon is saying that we need to know what the initial discussion between Sammy and the players, and if trust was broken. Do you have any idea?
I have heard that according to the director of cricket, that all non-selected players they spoke to each one of them, and they told them why they were not selected and the things they need to do to get selected. Right. So that's the official word that the director of cricket said this past Tuesday evening on a program. I've heard that.
So you hear that all players that were
not selected that were in the team. So
yes.
you feel like the Atenays, the Hodge, the Silva, who else? Those are the three I can think off the top of my head. At least those three guys. They had they spoke
a discussion with the director of cricket.
Correct. And I guess they were told.
Were they all told what they need to do to get back into the team?
Well, from what I understand, I'm not going to call the player's name because I don't want to put it out there. One of the players said that all they asked them was, "What can we do for you? How can we help you?" That thing was told in terms of what they have to do. So that contradicts what the director of cricket said on the radio.
So that player was asked, "How can we help you?"
That was the question. Apparently, it seemed like they had a meeting with all of the players.
Right.
I don't know if it was together, but the question was asked, "What can we do? How can we help you?"
And you know my mind. You know how my mind stay, Basil.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the A team. Did Hodge play any of those A team?
Yeah, Hodge played.
Did Atenays play?
Yes. Only person was Mr. Da Silva.
Only person missing was Da Silva.
Yeah.
So you know my mind works. So you know the obvious question I want to ask, because you know I'm saying that if those two play, because here's Cricket West Indies now, saying that they told all the players what they need to do.
Let me read what I was told.
Yes.
I was not told what I needed to do. We had a meeting to tell me I was dropped, and they asked me what I needed from them. So in a way, that contradicts what they
that does not align with what the director of cricket said.
No, it doesn't. When I saw this, I said this contradicts what he said on the radio. So there's some miscommunication somewhere.
I'm wondering if the player misinterpreted.
That's why I said there could be some miscommunication somewhere. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but what I read there is not what was said on the radio station.
Because to me, if the player said they told everybody else what to do, but they asked me what they can do for me, and judging, I'm using the fact I'm looking at it.
Well, the player didn't say they told everybody else. The player is talking about they particularly. Because look, I have a friend who knows this player. right?
Okay.
Personally. So I asked my friend to find out if player X received any blah, blah, blah. And he responded and said, this is what the person said. They did not tell, and I asked him those specific questions. Was he told why he was dropped and what he needed to do? The answer, as you said the first time I read, no, they did not tell me what I needed to do. We had a meeting I was told I was dropped and asked me what did I need from them, right? So I don't know if there's a miscommunication from the player's perspective. Also, they were asked on that radio program, did you speak to Roach? Oh, Roach is the other guy that was dropped. And they said, yes, they had conversation with Roach.
Okay. Well, just judging from what you said, there's a name that come to mind, but let's leave it at that.
Yes.
So Nico Jacobs is saying, hi, good morning. I don't agree with the cricket forum. That's okay. I enjoy persons not agreeing with me. I have no problem with what he said. What he said about Darren Sammy, that Darren Sammy made poor run retire. Well, it's well. Let me say this, Nico Jacobs. As I said just now, I do not have an issue with one disagreeing with me. I welcome disagreement because I think disagreement can elevate the discussion. But I'm very disappointed when persons tell lies.
Say they disagree without giving their side of the argument.
No, not that. You tell lies because at no time did I say that, Darren Sammy made poor and retire.
I listened to that show, Carlton. That's why I called you that night. I listened to the whole show carefully, and I was calling you to congratulate you on how you crafted logically your argument. Now it is an opinion. So anyone, we can disagree on opinions. That's fine, right? Until you get the actual facts of the matter, then somebody can argue and tell you I disagree. If you state the fact, you stated the opinion, and this person, could say no, we don't agree with you. So be it.
Yeah. Yes, and I take that, Basil, but and as I said, it's fine for this person to disagree, Nico Jacobs. But what he's doing is actually telling a lie on me.
He's not stating your exact position.
Yes, and so he's saying that I made a wrong statement. But I am saying to Nico Jacobs, I was clearly giving my opinion. But what you are doing right now is telling a lie on me, and you should apologize.
That's right.
Fortunately, you are not in Jamaica, because if you're in Jamaica, my lawyer would be sending you a letter.
A libel. It's easier to sue for libel in the Caribbean than the U.S.
And with the SOS Music Labor, and I must warn you, gentlemen, that SOS Music Labor, his other name for him is Sammy's attorney. So you can, he will. So here's what he's saying. He said that a lot of persons do not understand their role. That is why we have shortfall. Roles are most important. Once you understand your role, you will function a lot better. How do you react to that, Andre?
I mean, persons could understand the role, or they could be given a role to perform, but executing it or having the requisite skills to perform is a different matter. So I'm pretty much sure, and based on what Sammy has said, that persons actually, are given roles, but a matter of execution is where they don't execute. So it's not a matter of they don't understand any role, but execution is a matter.
So is it that the coach is picking the wrong player for the role, Andre? We only have about 24 minutes leave and want to go through as many questions as possible.
Carter, I just want to say something quickly.
Yes.
He's indicting his man Sammy then. He's not a good attorney, because if the player does not understand the role, whose fault is that? Is the coach the one that has to clearly communicate to that player, and the player has to understand, because in their preparation, that would be be the facilitation of the court. So
Yeah.
he's a poor attorney.
Yeah, and I must say, I love the communication between SOS Music Labor and I just love it. I enjoy the banter. Here's what he's saying now, Basil, and this is for you to react to.
Okay.
Nicholas Pooran is not a good cricketer. Anyone can play, bat up and catch, calling it cricket. The brand West Indies give him is break in franchise, bat up and catch with third division bowlers. How do you react?
Look, this guy, this is what you call sour grapes, right? I mean, we could have all issues with Mr. Puran not playing, but to say he's just simply a bat up and catch is far from the truth. And that's an objective fact. We would say also, like he forget, what was it? Was it last year or the year before? Puran was not our leading T20 scorer in international cricket. So I mean, Puran is not any and anybody. Puran is a very destructive batter. I know for as a coach, Sammy is obviously disappointed. You have lost such an asset that could put pressure on a bowling attack in T20 cricket. So no, let's play like the fox and the grapes, where the grapes get sour because the man gone. Now you're gonna throw everything at him and so on. No, the guy was of value to the West Indies team.
Thank you. Ray Jeffers, good morning. I'm not quite understanding what you're saying. I don't know if is there a coach in St. Kitts that named Questa?
Questa.
I don't quite leave it alone, Basil. I don't quite understand what Ray Jeffers is saying. Good morning. Nico Jacobs continued to say that I need to apologize. And as I said, he's fortunate that he's not in Jamaica. He would have heard from my attorney. Sachin and Lara kept on practicing and improving themselves even after they reached great heights, said Orlando Paul. That's the point we're making, Andre, that players need to evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Carlton, on that same point, Raul Dravid, there was a guy, I forget the guy's coach name, but I read an article. He was of his academy in India, and he also coached with Rajasthan and so on. And he was showing the basics when a player come in. They got these basic drills you go through first, and then you progress and so on. He said Raul Dravid used to come in and do them same drills and then go out in the middle. And with practice, one shot for 1 hour, take a break, then practice another shot for an hour. This is Raul Dravid, the world beater batsman.
Yes.
I just want to say that.
Yes, and that's a point I keep on making, and that's a very good point. Now, here's Blair Boyd making a point, and I'm telling you the truth. I don't like these points, and this should never be encouraged. And usually, the only reason why I'm reading this is to point out that we don't want to encourage this. Sammy should not be around the team. He cannot bat or bowl. He was riding on Gale, Samuel, Sarwan, Bravo, Chandapal, just to mention a few players back. We don't want to be like that. We those are just no. And the only reason why I read it is to say those type of arguments not going to take West Indies cricket forward.
And the role.
It is okay to critique the coach because we are the one who supported them. It's okay to critique the players and the team because we support them. We are emotionally invested in the team. So nothing wrong with critiquing them. We should also praise them. But when you're trying to insinuate these insularity, we are not going to tolerate it, Blair Boyd, and all of those who are trying to position that. Critique, yes, but our overwhelming attitude should be one of support. Go ahead, Basil.
What I just wanted to say, being a coach is a different skill set than being a player. And if we look around across sports, most of the greatest coaches were journeyman players, decent players. Very few of the superstars in sport go on to become good coaches. So don't use whether, yeah, we know Sammy was a journeyman player, but that's irrelevant to him being a coach. Where we would have a problem is when those at Cricket West Indies that like to use, he was a two-time winning captain, so that is why that is an asset for him being the coach. And that to me is a little problematic because it's two different skill sets.
Yes, and Andrea, you need to come in and look more often because it
Yeah.
appears that you are enjoying the discussion so much.
No,
that you want
no,
to
I
say.
was about to say I was about to draw the parallel between well, cricket and not quite a parallel. I mean, just to make mention of, Basil made mention of something just now. I was going to go to track and field and I'm going to identify two coaches, the great the coach of Usain Bolt
Glenn
and
Mills.
Glenn Mills and Mr. Stephen Francis, two of the probably greatest coaches you have ever seen, and they were never ever athletes in terms of being at any level. So
Exactly.
being a top player doesn't necessarily mean that you have to being a coach doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a good player. It doesn't mean at all. Some of the best coaches in world sports were never ever even players at the international level or even at the national level.
Exactly.
So I don't see it where that holds true.
And the more practical example that I've used in recent times, something that I think everyone can relate it to, a bright young man or young girl in high school who got a grade 1 in mathematics. Does it mean that because that guy got a grade 1 in physics, you want him to be teaching your little girl physics, although he has not moved on to university as yet?
Exactly.
So not because you were a good captain,
Yeah.
it necessarily means that you're a good coach. I want to read Nikom Jacobs, who have been making a lot of comment, but I want to read this one because and reply to it. Mr. Brown, you're a double-minded person.
Oh God, don't get it.
He's attacking me personally.
No.
Why you call out Darren Sammy on Wednesday and still say that Darren Sammy needs support? Right away, I think that everyone who is listening to this discussion realize that Nikom Jacobs doesn't have the cognitive skills to deal with separate issues. And he doesn't understand that you critique your child, but you still love them and you still praise them when they do something wrong. I don't know if when Nico Jacobs' loved ones does something wrong, he stop loving them. Because and let's use physics because physics is what we just used. If my child gets a physics homework or even some in-class project, and he gets one question wrong, and he gets one right, one wrong and one right, should I not praise him for the one that he got right? And should I not take steps to try to encourage him to get the one that he got wrong right? It's as simple as that. And I hope that simple explanation, Nico Jacobs, shows you that you have to learn to separate issues. And I, like you, do not cast everything under one umbrella. I have the ability to praise persons when they are right, and I have the ability to critique that same person when they are wrong. And sport is an evolving thing. And so a person may be brilliant today, and tomorrow is not that brilliant. I took that long to explain it to you, Nico Jacobs, for one reason only. As a fellow West Indian, I believe that it is my responsibility to help everyone to be a better person if I can. It's as simple as that. Stephen Roach is saying, days of old when the regional teams all had great players meant they played at the intense level before playing international cricket. I think he wants to say that our regional tournament was better. We all know, we all know that. TD is saying, I'm backing Sammy and the team 100%. Sir Carlton, set up a show with Darren Sammy for next Sunday so we the fans can get an accurate picture of what's going on. But SOS Music Labor, I have gone through the official channel to invite Sammy on the show, and I was not even offered the courtesy
Or response.
of a response. Basil, why do you think that? And I want to hear from both of you quickly. Why do you think that Darren Sammy is afraid to come on the show?
I have not seen Darren Sammy on any Caribbean media other than the press conferences. So, and also, as you would know better than most, because you're on their media list for the press conferences, that we no longer have the press conferences with the once the team is selected, that you in the media can question and raise questions. We get this dry media release that even raises more questions, right? When you read a media release, you say, well, what? Well, I want to raise more questions. So Sammy has not been, and Sammy was a guy that you said loved it, that talks a lot. Because I remember when Sammy was not in those positions, you would see him every day doing Facebook Live.
Andre, why do you think Sammy doesn't want to come here?
I think Sammy, along with the rest of persons in Cricket West Indies, are probably a little bit fearful in facing the West Indian publics and opinions of West Indian people. And, you know, this being a West Indian platform, he might have quite a bit of reservation in wanting to come and face, you know, persons on the on this platform, being that it is West Indian.
And most importantly,
isn't that unfortunate that we are the one who supports him? We the people are the one that he called upon for support. You heard him saying this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So why should it go one way? You are calling us for support. You are calling on us for support, but at the same time, you don't want to talk to us. Why? Except from an elevated position, but you don't want to come to us and to talk to us and answer the questions of the persons that are in this wonderful community. You're saying something, Basil, quickly?
I was going to say, most importantly, you're an independent. So you ain't got to frighten that the people going to knock you off if you answer the question.
Yeah. So Sammy Attorney is saying that's SOS Music Labor.
Yes.
If not for West Indies cricket, no one would have recognized Pooran. I agree. And so he's asking, what have Pooran done for West Indies cricket? Basil, 30 seconds.
I would simply say this. Pooran made 100 in the World Cup, and I'll stop right there.
Okay. So TD saying that...
One thing I could say, though, if he wants to say that Pooran has not really lived up to his full potential, that I could understand, because at very critical juncture, Pooran has not performed, especially at T20 World Cup. So as much as we, you know, in those critical games, Pooran was a no-show. So if he wants to say that Pooran has not really performed at critical stages for the West Indies, I could understand that. But to say that he has not impacted in any way, that I would disagree.
Yes. And TD is saying that cricket at the regional level needs to improve for West Indies cricket to be better. We certainly agree with that, TD. Go ahead, Basil. Quickly.
No, I was saying that is a universal agreement amongst West Indies cricket fans and everyone involved in West Indies cricket.
Andre, and I'm going to Mr. Casanova here, say that he singled out Pooran, but I want to say there is no legacy in T20 franchise cricket. The legacy comes when you play for West Indies, Andre.
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, even Kohli even made inference to that the other day when he said that as much as he won, when he won the IPL for the first time, he said that Test cricket is the real deal, and Test cricket is where people will remember you. So no matter how much IPL titles you have, people will not. The legacy comes from playing and representing your country, and Test cricket in particular. We don't know what 15, 20 years down the line will be, but as of now, nobody remembers you. Test cricket, in T20 cricket, there's no legacy to get from T20 cricket as we speak right now.
It is true now. You know that I struggle to. You guys know that I will come on the show and I'll recite things from Test match way back when. I can't do it for T20 cricket. I just don't, because there's none that stick in my mind.
I mean, and Carlton, the only time T20 cricket would stick in your mind is in the World Cup. No other time.
Yeah. So TD said West Indies have too much drama with mediocre player. And I tend to agree, Basil. Are we being what you call it now? Are we supporting mediocrity too much, Basil?
I don't know if it's we supporting mediocrity. I think it's because we have a mediocrity that permeates across our system. So what we would call mediocre players are the best that we have. Because when you look across the board in our batters, for example, in Test cricket, everybody averaging 20 something, right? That's mediocrity right there.
That's mediocrity. Betty, she's asking that, does West Indies have a health or pension plan for its players? I honestly don't know. Does CWI have any other incentives that encourages loyalty, like any educational initiative? Betty, I must say that Cricket West Indies is a cricket organization. Now, we know that Cricket West Indies have organized coaching camps where players can become coaches. Cricket West Indies is responsible for the umpires and so on. It's unfair. Let's not use the word unfair. It's unreasonable to ask Cricket West Indies now to be responsible for things outside of cricket. And you wouldn't ask the law school in Trinidad and Tobago to be having a cricket arm to their law school. You want to ask the medical arm of the University of at the University of the West Indies if they have an incentives for the doctors to play cricket. So in my mind, I think that it is unreasonable to ask Cricket West Indies to be responsible for anything outside of the realms of cricket. And in fact, there are so many opportunities in cricket. Cricket involves so many persons coming from other discipline to be a part of the cricket. The first part about does West Indies have a health or pension plan for its players? Yes, West Indies have a comprehensive health plans for its players, and they have their cards and so on, and they travel with it. Basil, I am not quite sure about the pension, but
no, there was talk about doing something along those lines, but I don't know if they have gotten there, because I just know they have these players. That the controversy about the 500,000 during Cameron time that was elicited for former players, and they have this former players association that do get funding and to help former players when they're in financial need, or they have some kind of crisis going on in their lives. And there were a couple players who were able to access funds, players who were ill and needed to pay the hospital bills and so on, and they were able to give them money towards that. But beyond that, no.
Yes, and I want to say something again on the issue of players representing the West Indies. There is no sport in the world, no matter how much money the players are paid, who after finish playing in that sport do not go on and do something else with their lives and able to maintain their standard of living as they were when they were playing sport. If you do that and don't go on to do something else with your life, you are going to end up a pauper. No matter how much money you are paid, you cannot maintain your standard of living after your playing days if you do not evolve into some other form of career, whether in that sport or in another sphere of life or some investment in some financial institutions. So the argument put forward that players have a short playing career in which sport they don't have, in which sport that they don't have. And tell me one player who after they finish, they just sit down and try to live off the money that they receive and they don't end up a pauper. You know, so we must look into that. Benjamin Ruger, we thank you so much for your comment, and we're going to, this is going to be the, I know that there's a lot of comment, but we need to read this one, Basil, because we appreciate it, and these are the type of sentiments that keep us going, Andre. Here is Benjamin Ruger's. This is the most realistic cricket platform in the world. In the world.
All right.
I have strong opinions about my love for West Indies cricket, but I always learn something here. You are the best. Thank you, Benjamin Ruger. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, I know both of you.
Thank you,
Benjamin.
thank you,
Yes,
thank you.
thanks indeed.
Carlton, I must say, West Indies batting first, and Mr. Charles is not playing, so it look like Hope opening the batting.
So I was going to ask you, gentlemen, for your final comment, but that match is going to start in a minute, and I'll go right over to the watch along. So all of you who are here, if you want to ask your question there, I will answer them. So I'll see you for the watch along. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. It was a pleasure, and see you next Sunday.
All right.
All right, have a good day. Take care.